Okay, I'll try to record this again. I keep getting phone calls and stuff and texts. It keeps messing me up. So, uh, check out these trees behind me. Look at them blowing. Can you see them moving? And maybe when the wind picks up. They're really blowing hard though. I'm gonna get to that because I actually have an idea. So, years ago, I had an idea, and it looks like somebody's already got it. But I had an idea years ago how to basically eliminate the internet and how to communicate wirelessly. Basically, if you took two encrypted hard drives that were quantumly entangled, you wouldn't need any sort of communication medium. Whatever you drag and dropped onto one hard drive would automatically be replicated in its opposite form due to the quantum entanglement on the other hard drive. It doesn't matter distance, space, time. You could be on Mars. And the cool thing is if you had two hard drives that were quantumly entangled, you wouldn't even have to. You wouldn't even have to have internet or a cell phone. You could literally, whatever you drag and drop, the complete opposite uh, is going to be on the other hard drive instantaneously. So all you'd have to do is, have some sort of conversion that would take the exact opposite and just reverse it to its negative form. So, because whatever you drop onto your hard drive, the opposite version, literally whatever's a one on yours is going to be a zero on that one if you were looking at binary. So you would just have to flip all the bits on it. And yeah, it looks like they're doing that. But so we'll see. I guess maybe I could have been rich or a physicist, but nah, that's not my bag. But check out these trees. So I was just thinking, okay, so I'm not sure. There's a lot of different ways we generate electricity, but one of the primary ways is essentially, usually it comes down to, running a magnet across a copper coil or something like that. Running a magnetic field striking, through like copper lines and stuff. So most of the power we generate is usually done like that. Now you do have, photovoltaic cells for your solar panels and stuff like that. That's a little bit different. That's where photons strike electrons that are kind of free roaming in those in the material, and it basically knocks them loose. And when the light hits it, that's how those work. Another one's like piezoelectric effect, where you take, a crystal. Think of a really nice watch battery, and if you apply gentle pressure to a crystal, a quartz crystal, it will generate electricity. That's how a lot of your Swiss watches are running, stuff like that. So, I mean, I think about this. Imagine if you built a very large, granite structure over a river, perhaps under, if you had a river with a quartz deposit underneath or something, that river flowing would, in theory, generate a lot of electricity. All it has to do is flow over some quartz because the pressures involved would stimulate the piezoelectric effect, I would imagine. But I had another idea. This is the reason I'm actually home making this video, is imagine these trees. So, have you guys ever seen anything about wave power? So if you could float some buoys on the surface of a wave and extend from that buoy down, you have a long cable, and along that cable you have magnets and some and you have some copper coils. Well, as those waves go up and down, so does that buoy. Now that buoy is going to take that cable with a magnet on it, and it's gonna go up and down with the waves, just like a boat does, and that's gonna strike against a magnetic, coil, and that can generate electricity. But what about trees? Dude, these trees, do you see how much they're moving? Imagine if you fastened a cable to the tip top of a tree, or at least a higher portion of the tree, and you secured static copper coils located all along the trunk or perhaps even branches. You could run a cable down. And as that tree bends and flows, it's going to pull that cable up and down across that. You could wire up an entire forest. Now, I don't know how you'd store the electricity. Um, if you guys have ever heard of physical electric storage, that's fascinating. That's where basically what you do is you convert electricity into kinetic energy. They'll take old mine shafts and stuff, and so what you do is, since you can't store it necessarily through a battery, you can create a physical battery. And what that does is you use the electricity to build a structure during the day when electricity is high. And then what you do is you use deceleration and motion and things like that, like dropping something from a really high distance to pull the turbines. I actually use weights. So, like, let me give you an example. So, think of an old oil well. You could build a crane outside of that oil well. what you do is all day long, you're hauling blocks up. You've got a solar farm, and you're pulling blocks up with the crane around that oil well or something. And then what you do is at night, you take those blocks, you use the crane, use a little bit of the electricity, and then you drop them back down and you deconstruct your building at night. And that deconstruction, when those heavy blocks fall down that shaft, they're going to be spinning a turbine. So actually, it's called a physical battery. So you're storing electricity mechanically. It's very fascinating. But you could do something kind of similar. Imagine if every tree just on these 16 acres was wired up, even if it's just millivolts. Man, that's a lot of electricity. And I don't know how to do it. I'm not an engineer. I just have ideas. But I was just thinking about that. I don't know. I just saw the trees blowing, and I was like, man, that's a lot of energy we could be harnessing right there, right? So I don't know. But I need to start writing these ideas down. That's the reason I'm making this, because the last one, well, for quantum communication without any sort of like radios or internet or anything, like, yeah, that was a good one. But I guess if you don't act on these ideas, it doesn't really matter anyway, does it? So, oh well, that's all. Have a good one. Bye.